Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out to the February 18th Board of Supervisors meeting. Can everyone stand for the pledge?
One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you very much. I did want to report that we had two executive sessions this month. One, which was January 24th for personnel, and another one just tonight before this meeting on February 18th for personnel and legal. Couple of announcements to make, just letting everyone know that the Butterscotch Cafe. Oh, okay. I always like to go to the announcements first. I'm sorry. Yes, we need to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of January 21st, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 21, 2025.
And I'll second that. Do we have any comments? Seeing none. Hard to make comments when people don't get to see in advance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's approved. And I did want to make a few announcements. The Butterscotch Cafe conditional use hearing will be continued on Monday, February 24th at 7 p.m. We hope. Charlene, you will notice, by the way, that Charlene is not here today. She is sick. She has the flu. But we are really excited to have Bernie back. So I want to mention that. On March 3rd, there will be a workshop to discuss the scope of the ordinance for the Human Relations Committee. And on March 4th is the rescheduled presentation of the Historic Resources Committee regarding West Vincent's role in the Underground Railroad. That should be very interesting. They had to keep moving that, so hopefully they get a good turnout. I'm going to turn the meeting over now to Tom Dyer, who is here tonight for Dave Otterano, who is out.
Yes, so on the agenda today, we have public hearings on two proposed ordinances. I will start with ordinance number 211, which is titled No Parking and Stop Signs. I'd like to note that this ordinance was duly advertised in the Pottstown Mercury, giving notice of the ordinance. Just as an overview of what the ordinance is doing is it's amending two sections of the code to add stop signs, specifically at the intersections of Eagle Farms Road and Bergamont Way, as well as Eagle Farms Road and Augusta Drive. Along with that, it's also adding no parking along Hollow Road between Flowing Springs Road to Schoolhouse Road. And with that being said, I will open the floor to any public comment or questions that pertain to this proposed ordinance. Hearing none, I would ask that the public hearing be closed on ordinance number 211.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 211, no parking and stop signs.
And I will second that. Any comments at all? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And then the next ordinance for today for public hearing is ordinance number 212, which is labeled the no knock ordinance. Again, the ordinance was duly advertised in the Pottstown Mercury between, I believe, January 21st and January 29th. This ordinance is essentially expanding upon the no solicitation ordinance that was previously in place for West Vincent Township. What it's aiming to do is put in place a more defined application process, as well as further definitions as far as what is solicitation or peddling, and enacting a penalty or more of an enforcement provision for individuals that violate this section of the code. So with that being said, I'll open the floor for any comments or questions that pertain to this proposed ordinance.
I should know what's in this, but being as I didn't get a chance to pre-read it. Does it involve political electioneering?
No, anything political or religious constitutionally must be permitted, and that's also specifically accepted within the proposed ordinance as you can't avoid any solicitation or peddling as far as that goes.
Thank you.
And it does allow for, if you grow a product, it allows for you to sell your farm stand, I believe.
At your own, yes, it does,
Property.
yes, it does provide for that.
Not about that.
Hearing nothing.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Is this the same as what we discussed at the last meeting, or is it a modification?
It's
It's
the
not
same thing.
changed.
Okay.
With no further questions, I would ask for the public hearing for ordinance number 212 to be closed.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt number 212, no knock.
And I will second that. And seeing no comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes also. Okay, thank you. We have a couple of presentations tonight. So first, and long awaited, Chris Herr should be here from Mally. Oh, there you are in the back. These are auditors, and he's going to present the draft of the 2023 audit.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Herr. I'm a partner with Maley. Happy to be here tonight. Present the 2023 drafts. We were just here about 4 months ago doing 22, so we're closing ground here. We're getting caught up. We are in draft form right now. We're not quite final. As far as the numbers go, we're done. We've done all the interviews and gotten all the legal updates we need to get. Right now, we're just waiting on the management discussion and analysis piece for the report, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's management's sort of discussion of what happened during the year. I know I've given you guys a template. I'm sure you're working on it. As soon as we get that back, we'll have to do a quick representation letter, but it should be about a week or less turnaround to get the final reports issued once we have that MD&A back from you guys. Just to briefly touch on the results, the 3 documents that we'll be issuing. The first is going to be the financial statement. Our opinion on that will be unmodified, which means it's free of any material misstatement. It complies with the modified cash basis of accounting. There's no scope limitations. Everything that we needed in order to conduct the audit, we did receive. As far as the numbers go, I don't think there shouldn't be any surprises there. I know the numbers are a little bit stale. We're in 25, we're talking about 23 numbers. So it's a little hard for me to discuss sort of them in relation to what happened in 24 and so far in 25. The one thing I would point out is the general fund did have a pretty significant decrease in cash balance and fund balance. That went down from about $1 million to about $500,000. The main drivers of that, transfer taxes dropped about $400,000. So your revenue in 23 went down. Your expenses went up about the same amount, largely driven by the public safety expense line. Police wages and health insurance was up roughly $150,000. There was also a $200,000 contribution made to a fire company in 23. So revenues went down, expenses went up. Not a great combination, but that led cash to go down about $500,000. The only thing I'd kind of put that in reference to, I always look at general fund cash as a percentage of annual expenses. So right now, about $500,000 of cash in the general fund at the end of 23. Your annual expenses is a little over $5 million. So in cash, you've got about 10% of your annual expenses, which means if no money was coming in, you'd run out of cash in about 5 weeks as of the end of 23. Usually, I advise municipalities I'm working with, 2 to 3 months is usually the minimum. The reason for that being when you get to December 31st, you're not seeing a lot of your revenue streams coming in January and February. A lot of your real estate taxes, your EIT, even permit fees, they really only start to pick up in the spring, March, April. So you usually want to have enough cash to at least cover a couple months. I don't know what happened in 24. We haven't audited that yet, but hopefully the cash comes back up. That is the one sort of number in the financial that kind of caught my eye that I wanted to to bring to your attention. I mean, that's the financial statement. We're also going to issue 2 letters to the township as part of our audit. The first is a SAS 114 letter, the standard audit we issue with any audit, whether it's a government, a for-profit, nonprofit. Basically, it just talks about our responsibility, which was to issue an audit opinion on the financials, talks about our compliance with ethical requirements, significant accounting policies, which there was no changes there. There's no unusual transactions, no difficulties encountered during the audit, no disagreements with management. Probably the biggest key item in that letter is all of our audit adjustments are at the back of that letter. So there's about 4 pages of audit adjustments. We had about 24 adjustments that we had to make to get the 23 numbers correctly stated. It's about 3 times what we had to do for 22. So we had a lot of adjustments we needed to make to cash accounts, inter funds, some various other balance sheet items and income expense items to get the books to be properly stated. So those will be included with the SAS 114 letter. And the final letter that we're going to issue this year is called a SAS 115 letter. It used to be called a management letter. These are some things that we think the township could improve on, basically items for correction. There's a few things there, bank reconciliations. So every month, bank statements come in the mail, and then you should be reconciling them to what's on your trial balance. So what are our uncleared checks, what are our deposits and transit, things of that nature. We did have several cash accounts where when we got the bank statements and reconciliations, they did not agree to your trial balance. So in those instances, we kind of had to go in and figure out, okay, why don't they line up? We were able to figure that out in all cases, but those things really should be reconciled. You know, your supporting documents should match your trial balance. Sometimes what happens, especially with QuickBooks, is if you do the reconciliation, I think this might be what happened in a few cases. The reconciliation was done, but then a journal entry was made in the system later on, but no one ever went back and updated the reconciliations. The other thing with bank reconciliations is we noted, especially on the main general fund checking account, that there was a lot of outstanding checks that were outstanding for several months. So typically your checks should clear within a month or 2. And if they don't, someone should be going in and making sure, well, did the check go out? Did it get lost in the mail? Do we need to reissue, you know, whatever that would be? The other issue with the general fund in particular is one account we had to do a lot of cleaning up on as part of the 23 audit was an exchange account. It wasn't a revenue account, it wasn't an expense account, it wasn't a cash account. I don't know what the account was, but there was about 100,000, 150,000 of activity going through it. And what we were able to figure out is there was also in the general fund several transactions that were listed as outstanding. And they were not outstanding items. The other side of those entries was in this exchange account. So we were able to essentially correct that exchange account by eliminating outstanding items on the bank rec that weren't really outstanding. So that exercise of going through the bank recs, looking at older stuff, making sure it really is outstanding, or making the accounting adjustments to get rid of it is going to be critical to the bank statement reconciliation process going forward. One of our other recommendations is interfunds. Anytime you have activity between 2 funds, it has to offset. So if you transfer money from one fund to another, there should be a transfer in one, a transfer out in the other. They should match in dollars. Same with due to, due froms. We did have issues with that with the 23 numbers where there were some interfunds that didn't agree. Again, that's part of those 24 adjustments that we made to the books to correct those balances. A couple other recommendations that we had in the letter: record keeping. We did have, we were able to get everything we needed to conduct the audit, but sometimes it was a struggle to find certain documents, especially related to revenues. So one of our recommendations is in regards to record keeping, maybe looking at the system for how are we filing and organizing our expenses, how are we organizing and keeping the records for our receipts, our deposits, our revenues. Seemed like a lot of it, the majority of it was more stuff that maybe was wired in, like a grant was wired directly into the bank statement. And then when we'd go and ask for support for it was able to be found, but it took a little bit of time. So, a good system, we should be able to ask for a revenue or an expense and should be able to get that in 30 seconds out of a well-organized system of record keeping. The last recommendation I have here, I've been making this recommendation more and more to my municipalities, is as part of your budget process, having a specific salary approved schedule. So not just, okay, we're going to do a blanket 3% raise for everyone, but actually list out all the different employees and what you expect them to be paid for the year. Reason for that is and we don't have this issue here, but I've had other places where, there's an approved salary as part of the budget, and then all of a sudden there's overtime and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's really hard to evaluate, is someone's pay what we expect it to be without having that sort of list of, okay, here's, person A, person B, person C, and here's what their salary should be for the year. It just allows for a little more transparency and a little more evaluation of the payroll schedules. That's really all I have. Again, we'll be issuing a financial statement, the SAS 114 and then the SAS 115 management letter as part of the audit. Hopefully, as soon as we get that MD&A, it'll be a quick turnaround. And then we'll go right into 24 and get this thing totally caught up on.
Thanks for your work.
Appreciate it.
Anyone have questions? Come on up. What time?
You can stay here.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just giving you some room to talk about.
Okay, one of the things you talk about is a modified cash basis.
Yep.
And then you explain that it only comes into play in intergovernmental transaction. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, modified cash basis is a type of accounting system. Intergovernmental transactions or a transaction that happens within that system.
Is it limited to intergovernmental transactions or not?
What modified cash basis means is that revenues are recorded as cash is received, expenses are reported as payments are made. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with intergovernmental activity specifically.
Okay. I thought that I haven't seen this audit because it took me by surprise. I didn't know it was going to happen until I saw the agenda. And I don't know whether you have a draft copy that I can look at, but I'd appreciate it if I can. I'll try and get it.
No, because it's still draft, right? We'll put it up as soon as it's official. Right.
Okay. I think you should put up as a draft if anybody has comments. It's like drafts of minutes, drafts of this, that, and the other thing. But
That's where I disagree with you, John. I hate to,
okay,
if we're gonna put drafts out there, yes, this is all marked draft, but it's still problematic to have drafts of it out there. We're gonna have the actual within hopefully a week. You'll have the final within a week.
okay. I will say in last year's draft, I mentioned the $500,000 to the equipment fund, and that may have changed had you been here versus Jackie. There's last year you discussed non-spendable. Is that an issue? Is that something we should be?
Non-spendable is a type of fund balance. So usually that represents prepaids. Here comes statements.
While he's looking for that, I have often advocated a stronger accounting presence here. And I think what he's saying would support that. We've had forensic audits, we've had audits that are 3 and 4 years late. This audit is almost a year late. And there's a lot of adjustments you made. You did a lot of research to put those cash balance transfers in order, I would say.
There is no non-spendable, the only place I know of non-spendables in accounting terms is under fund balance. There is no non-spendable fund balance for this year. There's some restricted, there's assigned, but there's no non-spendable.
That's all.
Thank you, John.
I guess this isn't necessarily for Chris, but considering that we're getting the review of the 23 numbers now, and he's got a list of recommendations, they didn't happen in 24. Are we gonna see a repeat in 24?
Well, some of the recommendations have happened in 24. One of the key things was the reconciliations. The reconciliations, since I've been on board, have been done by an accountant from Boyer and Ritter. So we have a third-party accountant doing the reconciliations, which.
Well, it wasn't that they weren't done, right? It was that they weren't done.
Well, I mean, he should understand how they should be done, and as far as I can tell, they're being done correctly. So, I mean, are certain things that, I mean, I have an audit background from time I worked for a utility, and I'm a firm believer in financial controls, and we have put certain financial controls in place since I've been here.
Okay, so I guess you haven't done anything in 24 yet? Or?
No, not yet. We're sure,
I-
as soon as we get 2023 issued.
Yeah.
Then they'll roll into 2024.
In 24, would
Then we're
your hope is it would happen on a typical schedule now? That would.
I suspect it may be a little bit delayed, but more typical schedule than this, yes.
Yeah, I would question if there would have been less issues for you to deal with if Jackie were still here, because she probably could have explained some things or found some things quicker. Given that the person who did the accounting wasn't here while you were, I think that probably added some challenge to this one.
There was a lot of hands in those 20.
Yeah,
From what I
that's true.
learned when I was doing
22 and 23.
Well,
yeah.
Jackie-
Various managers, various consultants, I think. So there was.
Jackie was the only treasurer through all of 23, wasn't she?
Mm,
No, I think that's where we started to find our problems. So it's.
Well, I thought that
some
Jackie
things
came
went
on
wrong
at
in
the end of
22, and then she
22.
started to find the problems in 23 and solve it, but it, there,
Okay.
I think all of the trouble should be behind us at this point, but
Okay,
it
and-
probably would have been better if she was here, that she could have
Yeah.
helped reconcile a few things
And-
quicker.
I think she was appointed March or April of 2023 as the treasurer. So there were multiple treasurers.
I think it was in the end of 22, actually.
Yeah.
But, so you'll post it before it's adopted or accepted by the board? You can do that?
Well, as soon as we get a final audit, it'll.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for
Go up on the
a
website.
next meeting to do that, do you?
Yeah, if we get it within a week, it'll be up within a week.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So the bank recs are getting done, but it sounds like the issue wasn't whether the bank recs are getting done, was are they being tied to the trial balance? Is that happening?
That's my understanding, yes.
Well, you would be the only person who would know that.
No, I work with the accountant from Boyer and Ritter.
Right, and they're doing the bank rec and you have the trial balance, so you can
Well,
look, and see.
he has full access to QuickBooks, so he's doing the trial balance.
So you're not overseeing whether that's being done as it
Not-
wasn't being done before.
Not specifically, no.
Okay, I'd recommend it. Second thing is, you said the general fund was around $500,000 at the end of 23, and now it's 1.4.
As of the end of January, it's just a hair over $1 million.
But December 31st,
December 31st, 1.362.
right, so close to 1.4. So we're doing better.
Like I
but-
said, I'm looking at a window.
No, I get that. I'm just saying.
Right.
And that number may change based on the next audit, based on how many changes you had to make last time. So again, following up both those comments, and I just want to again point out, as I did last month, almost all the things you found are things that John Eldridge has been asking you guys to do for the last, I don't know how many years. And I don't mean you guys like, why didn't you do it? But West Vincent Township, whoever was in the seat wasn't doing the things that John Eldridge has been asking to be done for years now. So I'm glad it's in good hands now. I just don't get the whole concept of what you said. Posting the draft is problematic, whether it's the minutes or the audit. I don't see any downside for the residents, not the supervisors, doing what's best for the residents to be able to see those before they're approved. So if anybody can explain that to me, besides saying nobody else does it.
Well, no, you're not talking about things being approved. We're talking about things being issued. So a draft has been issued to the board for its review and comment. That's being done. He's going to then issue.
I know what's going to happen.
He's going to issue.
I'm saying the draft. Why can't we see the draft of the minutes that we're being?
I can't address minutes. That's not.
Well, it's the same. It's the same issue.
Address the audit, and in terms of the audit, we're talking about a week's difference between the draft and the final.
But so
just to post the final.
So it's the final, and we're going to look at it and come up with comments. Wouldn't it be better to make those comments before the final comes in?
No.
Why? That's what I'm asking.
We're not going to change. We might explain it, but we're not going to change what.
Well, the audit's not going to change. I mean, if
there's a draft,
his audit's not going to change based upon.
And it's not a draft, it's final. You're saying there's going to be no changes from draft to final?
Shouldn't be. I mean, the only changes would be in the M&A section. Yep. And so what's going to happen is, I mean, look, it's not going to change. And so he's going to issue it, which is what should be done. I mean, this is not like minutes where people can I have a severe problem with people trying to comment on an audit like this. We've spent thousands of dollars with experts to do these audits, and people don't have the ability to look at all the background information that they have spent dozens, if not hundreds of hours looking at. And the other thing about comments on a draft is if he's going to answer them, we're going to have to pay for him to answer all the questions. Do we all want to do that when the reality is it's not going to change? I mean, his audit is what it is.
I think there's a problem with posting something that may not have been fully vetted, which is the problem with putting the draft minutes up there. Because I've personally seen some that come through that I was very unhappy with something that was put in there. It was skewed. It was not what the person said. We went back and we fixed it before anyone saw it. And I think that there's a problem with putting the minutes out there, and then the whole world can see something that maybe wasn't what we all agree happened.
See, you just made my point, Dana. First of all, you could see those minutes before they're posted as a draft.
But
So
we're
Christina,
approving them.
what?
We're the ones who are approving them. That's why we're.
Okay, but bear with me here. So Christina finishes the minutes, gives them to you guys to look at. You could find what you just explained, tell Christina she could change it, then you could post the draft of the minutes. So we could do exactly what you just did, where we're being misquoted, but now it's a matter of record that what we didn't say is a finalized, approved set of minutes. There's just no excuse for that.
Place you have it, whatever the incorrect, so we're vetting it first, but anything that's incorrect then lives out there forever and people have to see both versions. So we're at least trying.
No, the draft, when the draft is corrected, we can see that the draft was negated.
But people read it already.
Well, they see the final. People don't look back 3 years from now and say, look, the draft said this. They're going to look at the final. The draft could be deleted from the website. It's a separate issue, Dana. You know how I feel about it. I'm not going to bring this up every month, but I still haven't had anybody explain to me why the draft minutes can't be posted for us who are being quoted in these things to approve before you guys post it as final. And I've pointed out stuff after it was approved to say that I was misquoted and it wasn't changed. Anyway, back to the, although I'm sure Christina's minutes are.
Christina's very good at.
They weren't Christina's, thank you.
Christina, she does her.
well, whatever, on the audit.
There's always going to be something misquoted, and most of the time they won't change it on us. You have to really fight, like, that is absolutely wrong.
Well,
Because that's how they heard it, so.
I just think to say what I'm hearing about the audit, back to the audit issue, is this sounds way worse than I mean it, but it sounds like a lack of respect for the accounting expertise of the West Vincent residents, who some of whom are CPAs and can look at that draft and make intelligent observations that deserve to be responded to. Now that can still happen after the final comes out, but then it's still going to have to go back and the final has to be amended if it's found to be incorrect in some way, which seems unlikely, but there's I don't understand any argument that the residents can't see it before it's finalized. Now we are seeing it before it's approved, and that's a step forward, but I just don't get it. And I've never heard a good
Well,
explanation.
I will say that I pushed to do this because some people said, why don't you wait till it's approved before we have Chris come out here? And I pushed to have Chris because it was a first opportunity. Otherwise, you'd wait another month, and we want to keep moving with this. So I thought that this was the right thing to do, was to
appreciate
have
it.
Chris come, give us as much information as he could and be as transparent as he could be about this.
Last plug I'll give is we have elected auditors, one of whom is a CPA. We have always asked to be involved in this process, to see the draft. Again, you'd think that the elected auditors would be allowed to see it beforehand. We've never been allowed to see it.
That's right. I mean, my understanding is that that's illegal, correct?
The elected auditors have a role under state law. State law says that where the township appoints auditors as opposed to the elected auditors, the role of the elected auditors is to determine the compensation of supervisors who work for the township. That's what the law says.
We've never done that.
And I mean, it was done years ago when Ken Miller was the supervisor who was also the roadmaster. But since then, it's not been done. But that's the role
It's not been
under
needed.
state law of the elected auditors.
That's never been asked of the elected auditors. The only thing I
It's
joke to
something
my friends, I'm an
necessary.
elected auditor, so my two jobs are, one is to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary of the auditors. And the second thing is to approve the mileage rate, the reimbursement rate. We've never been asked to do anything else. We've asked to do many more things, but we've never been allowed to do any of those things.
Well, you would be asked if we had that same conflict, but we don't have that conflict.
There's no
There's no
supervisor.
necessary.
There's no supervisor who works for the township, who gets paid by the township.
I understand.
Other than as a supervisor.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to be township roadmaster. Sorry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hey, does anyone else have any comments? Chris, we really appreciate your hard work. You've been
Thank you.
doing a fantastic job for us, and we look forward to having you back here soon with the 2024, and that'll go nice and smooth.
That's absolutely the plan, to get this thing finished and then go right into 24.
Thank you,
All right.
Chris.
Thank you very much,
Chris. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now we are moving on. I'm not sure who's here to present today.
Right there.
Okay, I'm not sure anyone's names, but this is the Chester County presentation on the Bartlett School Bridge. And I'll let you introduce yourselves then. Do we need to shut the lights at all or not?
I don't
On
know.
the front, does it help or doesn't matter? Probably won't matter, it's such a big room. Yeah, that's on our to-do list, is to get better IT in here. I think that side comes up. Do you want me to? The side of that, I think, comes up there. I just put our laptop on it.
Right.
You slide it to your left. There you go. Pull it out. See that metal thing? Pull it out.
I got it.
Right? Okay. I knew you looked familiar. We did meet, right?
We did.
He's been some.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go. Is that gonna be in this way, the actual map? Will you be able to see the on?
Bernie can probably see. That's fine. Thanks.
Do anything after the blue light comes on?
Nope, it should.
They're not plugging in.
Blue light's on.
This is not my area.
I mean, the argument is that they're not leaving because we're going to manage. That's what Oh, you just. Rather grab the wrong thing and something will blatantly wrong. You never want something wrong up there. Oh, there we go. Just a little high. Yeah, that would probably help. It does work. I don't even know why we have the board there. I think it would work better on the wall. Perfect.
Then it would kind of walk back. Everybody wants to tilt it a little bit.
Pretty good.
At the top, I think. You can use the buttons, the arrows to go back.
It's better without the light. Thank you.
That's right. We need the mic for everybody here.
Yeah, can you pull that off of there? Can they pull it off? Or just turn it?
Yeah, I just feel like I'm gonna be in people's way. All right, but I'm gonna try it. And I feel like I'm not talking to half the crowd, but. We good, Tiff?
I think so.
Okay. Well, thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Sandy Martin. I'm with McCormick Taylor. With me tonight is Tiffany McClure. We are design engineers for what we call Chester County Bridge number 196, which is Bertolette School Road over French Creek. Also with us tonight is Eric Quinn. He's with the county, and Brett Coleman with TPD, the county's engineer, and then Genevieve Craidman, who's also on our design team. So the purpose for us to be with you tonight is to discuss the project. It has been around a little bit. The existing bridge, if you're not familiar with it, is a truss. It's a riveted Warren pony truss. It was built in 1905, so it is older than me, and has about a length of almost 100 feet, but 90 some feet. And the width is 14 feet, which constitutes a one-lane bridge. The bridge, most importantly, is weight restricted at 6 tons. And if you're familiar with this, it spans between East and West Vincent over French Creek, and West Vincent residents on Bertolette School Road. This is their only access out of their neighborhood. So it's a really important bridge because with the no outlet situation, it's really challenging for the movement of traffic. The bridge is eligible for the National Register. That is important because it makes it real hard to just tear it down and put a new one that is historic. And then it is surrounded by Camp Sankanak. The bridge has, been weight restricted since I've been involved with the county, which is about 30 years. But most importantly, it's beginning to deteriorate to a point where the 6 ton is not anything that can carry trucks or school buses or anything like that. But in September of 2024, it was inspected, and we had a situation. We had what we call 100% section loss, which if you look at the floor beam that's shown on the screen, you can see daylight through the beam. That's not a good thing. And for that reason, we had to make some repairs, and we're constantly repairing this bridge because of the continued deterioration. And I already mentioned it's a no outlet roadway. So this picture is the south approach. So you're standing kind of to the side of the bridge, looking south into West Vincent Township. And then this is a north approach. That's the camp office and the camp parking lot on the left. And that's looking north into East Vincent Township. And this is the upstream elevation of the bridge. So that's the bridge that's there today. So as we started to embark upon this project, and it's the only way in and out for the West Vincent Township residents, we started to think about, well, what could we do? Automatically, we kind of had to build a temporary structure to get the traffic going in and out, no matter what we did with the truss. So that kind of led us on the path of looking at another structure upstream from the existing bridge. This is your downstream view. If you look past the bridge, you can see the dock and there's a swimming pool. The camp has a lot of features that are really important to its program. And if you're there in the summertime, there's children and adults everywhere. It's a very active camp with a lot of activities going on in and around the bridge, or on and around the bridge. And then this is the underside. From a distance, it doesn't look so bad, but you get those close-up pictures and we really do have a lot of deterioration. And again, this is the parking lot for the camp. Just trying to get everybody familiarized with the site. So a few years ago, we started to look at alternatives. What could we do? We looked at realigning the roadway upstream from the existing bridge in 3 separate locations. And we wanted to look at the existing bridge, maybe perhaps to stay in place for pedestrian use. We also looked at rehabilitating the existing structure, and then we looked at what we call no build. Well, no build usually isn't an option because you're pursuing the project for a reason. In this case, it was because of the serious deterioration of the bridge. And so the no build did not meet the project purpose and need. When we got through the various alternatives, we decided alternative 2, a realignment upstream, was the most prudent approach to address the project purpose and need. And we reached out to the Pennsylvania State Historic Preservation Office because of the historic nature of the bridge, and they agreed with us because they did want us to try to save the truss and rehabilitate the truss. Okay, this is an engineering plan. You ready? Okay.
So I apologize, these are kind of hard to see, but this are the typical sections which show what the roadway width would be proposed condition. So the top section that you see is the approach roadway. We are proposing 2 9-foot lanes and 2 2-foot shoulders, which is wider than was what out there today. I believe out there today, there's only it's 8 to 9 foot wide travel lanes, and there are no shoulders. So this will improve the roadway coming across the structure. And then the bottom typical section is actually the bridge cross section. And over the bridge, there'll be 2 9-foot travel lanes. And then the shoulder width actually varies across the bridge. It'll be a minimum of 2 feet, but then it widens out at certain portions to accommodate the curves that are approaching the structure. So this is the construction plan. This shows the new roadway alignment. Down here, this is our proposed roadway along with the proposed structure. This is where the existing bridge is today. So as you're coming down Bertolet School Road, just where it curves to go down towards the camp to the existing bridge, we're actually going to come off of that and come up through here on a tangent and then curve and come over the bridge and then tie back in over here. The structure here, as you can see, it's actually a two-span structure. It will be 2 65-foot spans, and it will be a spread box beam structure. We originally tried to get a single span in here. Ideally, we would have loved to have put a single span in here. However, due to the hydraulics in the area, as everybody knows, it floods through here. And French Creek gets pretty high flows during storm events. So we are also, within a FEMA floodplain. So we were limited to increasing the water surface elevations no more than a foot. When we went and did the single span structure, we unfortunately were increasing water surface elevations over 2 feet in the area. So we went and we evaluated the 2-span structure. We were actually able to get water surface elevations for the 100-year storm event under a foot. I believe the max we have increased, which is just immediately upstream, is around like 8 inches, which is huge compared to the 2 feet that we had over 2 feet before. We were also able to go to a concrete structure. With the single span, the superstructure depth that was required for the beams was significant, and there was delivery issues. So with a concrete beam, the largest beam we could get delivered down here for concrete was only 100 feet. And that was not long enough to accommodate hydraulics that were through here. The profile of the roadway pretty much matches existing through here. And then as you come across the bridge, the proposed bridge actually sits a little bit lower than the existing structure. So that way, when you're standing on the existing bridge, you can actually still see like the proposed bridge. Its intent is not to block the view shed from the existing structure. As part of this project too, we will be reconstructing the parking lot for the camp. And then, as Sandy mentioned, the existing bridge will actually be rehabilitated. And as part of that rehabilitation, the structure will actually be able to accommodate heavier loads. The intent is for it to at least accommodate like a pickup truck. So this is our construction plan, and it shows the proposed roadway. And then here's the profile. As I talked about, we tried to match existing as best as we could through here. As you can see, there is kind of a dip over here. The reason for this is actually the relief point for floodwaters. So this was our control point, and this allows the water surface elevations to match what is out there today. So where there is no increase in overtopping of the existing roadway, so at the storm event that it overtops today is the same storm event that it overtops in proposed. And then here's a rendering that we pulled together that you can see. Here's the existing structure, and here is the proposed structure. So you can see how, we've got the 2-span, and we sit a little lower than the existing structure, and the bridge comes across and then ties back in. And then this is actually the type 10 example, which is the structure mounted guide rail that goes over the bridge. We felt this was important to show. This is what the bridge will actually look like from the top side as you're coming across. It will be painted brown to blend in with the aesthetics of the area. And the split rail was chosen to allow for visual appearance. This way, as you're going across the bridge, you don't have a big concrete barrier that's blocking your view of the existing structure. So next steps. So we are anticipating submitting our joint permit through the Army Corps and DEP and the Conservation District this month. We are anticipating submitting structural adequacy to PennDOT in September of 2025. And what that is as part of this funding for this project, we are required to submit our structure plans, calcs, and hydraulic analysis to PennDOT District 6 for their approval for funding purposes. Final design and right-of-way acquisition, we are anticipating completing in November of 2025 with construction in spring of 2026. There is the chance that we are pushing, that this may change, it may move up. But as of right now, this is what our schedule is currently anticipated to be. We are pushing the design forward as quickly and possible as we can. It's just going to be based on how quickly we can get our approvals through DEP, Army Corps, right away, and the district. So at this time, I'll open it up for any questions.
And I just want to ask, the current weight load on the existing bridge now, that was downgraded again, or what is it at now?
6.
It is 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And I thought that there wasn't going to really be any access there. I know you're saying you're making it so that you can put a pickup on it, but it's not going to.
No, it will be closed off. It will be strictly only for the camp potentially if they need, for some reason, they need to get across it. But it will be bollarded off. It will be for pedestrian use only. The only vehicular traffic that could potentially use it would be like, I'm going to say like a bobcat to plow it if it needs to get plowed, something like that.
Thank you.
Say, the new bridge is going to sit 2 feet lower.
No, it's just going to sit slightly lower. So I don't know the exact number between the existing like low chord of the existing bridge and the low chord of the proposed bridge. But the intent is that when you drive over the proposed bridge, you'll be able to see the existing bridge.
Okay, is there any way to measure what the high water mark has been on the existing bridge?
I think we actually have that data. We may. We have it through hydraulics. We can pull it. I mean, what specifically are you looking for?
Well, I'm just, to me, it's like, with the change in climate.
Yeah.
And more water and stuff like that, and you're building this lower than what, the smart people did back in 1905. It seems to me you would want to have it higher.
Okay, so the reason that we had to set it where we set it is strictly for hydraulic purposes. So what we determined through our hydraulic analysis was the higher we set the bridge, it's actually because more issues with raising the water surface elevation, because essentially you're putting a dam in. So what happens is the higher you go, the water ends up being dammed quicker, essentially, and it just starts backing up more. So there's like a give and take between where you set the low chord of a bridge and where you set the high chord of a bridge when you're putting them side by
When
side.
you raise the bridge
Yeah.
profile, you're also raising the approach roadway. That's the damming effect that you're
Yeah.
talking about. The other thing that's, should be mentioned about this, the 2-span bridge, so you've actually increased the span.
Right.
And I think, I've known this bridge for a long time, the existing bridge, I don't believe it's ever been overtopped.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not like there wasn't a.
As long as you're
threat.
confident.
I'm more confident.
Spending
with
a lot
what's
of money
proposed
on
than
it.
what's there now.
Spending a lot of money to not be confident, right?
Well, trust me, the hydraulics really do control a lot of the bridge design these days because they are very, they're theoretical, but they are very detailed modeling. And a lot of the engineering that results in the bridge is controlled by the hydraulics. It's a large part of the studies that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry, did you? I thought you were next. Okay.
There.
Yes, sure, please.
Hello, Julia Brandel. Did you guys do a traffic study to figure out how many cars go over that bridge daily?
We do traffic counts on the county bridges every 5 years. As a matter of course, every county bridge. So yes, we've counted those cars and I don't remember what it is. I might have it in a report that I have with me, but it's slow.
I was going to say, do you know how many residences are actually back there that need that bridge?
I think it's between a dozen or 15. It's somewhere in that range.
I guess my question is, because it looks like you're dumping a bunch of concrete down there by that bridge or with the new bridge. Why not a 1-lane bridge?
Well, in my opinion, as an engineer, I never like a 1-lane bridge because if you go back to the plan view, you're coming around a curve, sight distance issues. We already have some concerns on sight distance. So the 2-lane allows more safety by far. And in a scale of things, it doesn't increase the cost a lot when you're building a bridge.
But I understand. Okay, so it doesn't increase the cost, but it's pretty little French Creek and you're going to put a landing strip across French Creek by putting this big bridge there where there was a cute little truss bridge. Of course, it's 1 lane that's still going to be there if anybody needs to get, I guess, if there was an emergency and obviously a fire truck couldn't get across it. But it just seems like an awful lot. It seems like an awful lot of concrete and material being dumped in that cute little spot for 12 or 15 houses where there's barely any cars that go over it daily. It's not like how often would you actually meet up with a car coming in the opposite direction where it would be a thing?
Well, I don't know how the camp's going to operate this summer, but I was down there one Sunday when camp was letting out and there had to be several hundred cars in that area. just from the camp and the operation.
Going over the bridge?
Yes, because they have to go down to the camp houses that are down along the creek.
So that was, how many days a year is that? That there's a lot of people going over that bridge?
So she's asking me a question, so I'll answer. My name's Roy Shell, and I'm the director at Camp Saginaw. So Saturdays and Sundays during the summertime, so basically 10 weekends during the summertime would be the busiest traffic time, in which there's a considerable amount of traffic that's crossing the bridge. But outside of that time, I mean there is, there's still often times where you're coming down and you're waiting for a car that's coming out.
Mhm.
So it's not as rare as you think it might
Right.
be. So it does happen, yes.
Right.
Roy, can I also ask to add to that, how many, on any of those weekends, how many people, children are at the camp? Because
Yes.
there's also a lot of pedestrian, it's just a lot.
Well, yeah, but you're going to have a nice pedestrian bridge built right next to it.
But you said why we didn't leave the other bridge.
Well, no, you're leaving the other bridge.
Right, perfect.
Right.
For that.
So you have a pedestrian bridge. So there's not going to be any pedestrians going over that. I just wonder, because I look at the bridge that's down on Cook's Glen. Is it going to look like that bridge?
I think it's gonna be more aesthetically pleasing, because one thing, can we go back? to
But is it the same size? I'm saying it's the same size, the same width.
I don't know the exact width, but similar, yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you look at the rendering, I think the one thing that Cook's Glen Bridge doesn't have is and it's hard to see on this projection, but there's formline concrete here to give it the stone look. There's the open rail, and it's a two-span. So I think aesthetically, it's going to be better than Cook's Glen, but from the standpoint of the roadway, it was about the same.
Okay, I just think it's a big, huge bridge on a teeny little road.
And there's a lot of improvements for the camp from what's going on here too, right? That's also going to improve the water quality. Do I remember hearing something about that?
Septic. Yeah, they have a septic drain field relatively in the area that you see there between the two bridges. And as a part of our construction, we're working with the camp to redesign part of their septic system.
No, I'm not arguing the bridge. I just think it's a big bridge for a tiny little road. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm done.
How does this plan differ from the one that was approved like a decade ago?
In concept, it's really not different. We were always talking about doing an alternative alignment like this, but it is, when we came originally.
Yeah, I mean, the design is the same. I mean, as far as where it goes through the parking lot and all that, it's the same design.
Right, it's now a two-span bridge. When we
Yeah.
came to you originally, we thought we could get a one-span bridge, but the hydraulic studies showed that we could not. So the pier in the middle that you see in the rendering is new, relatively new.
So you couldn't put a heavier pier on a one-span bridge? It doesn't work that way?
The beam depth. So two span, you're looking at, I'm gonna say like 18-inch to 2-foot deep beam. The single span, we were looking at 4 to 5 foot deep
Mm-hmm.
beam, which when you do that, now you're talking your roadway's going up another 2 feet from where your load port needs to be. So what we were able to do, we were able to basically shrink the actual structure by going two span. And then we were actually able to go concrete. Since the bridge does get water, it does get inundated, and it does end up in pressure flow. You really don't want steel being inundated with water constantly. So using concrete is ideal in those situations. And by going two span, we were able to go to concrete and go spread box and lower our superstructure stuff, which is really what you want to do. And the concrete we couldn't get delivered. The only concrete beam we could get delivered was a 100-foot span, and it wasn't.
So why are we back here 10 years after an approved plan already?
We came to you with a concept, if it was 10 years ago, a long time ago. And the concept, since that time, we've met with the camp, we've worked through some of the improvements. We found that we didn't even know they had a drainage field. We found things that we had to work on in the design. And what Tiffany's talking about as far as the actual bridge design is very iterative. So we thought we had a good structural design, and then the hydraulic people came in and said, that's not working for hydraulic. Okay, let's try something else. So we've been doing that. And this is where we are. This is final design.
So you're the same company that designed the last one? You're talking about a we, so but it's not the same company. Okay, so we've paid again at the county to have another design made 10 years later on one. They were supposed to break ground on that thing in 2018.
There's three phases of a project. There's basically the concept phase where we did the alternative studies. And I think we came to you with the alternative studies, what we looked at. The second phase is preliminary design. That's where you actually lay out the type, size, and location, and you start doing some of the geometry. We're in final design. We're less than a year away from construction. So when we came to you the first time, we were in that first phase.
When you say we, who is we?
Chester County and McCormick Taylor, the design engineer.
So the new engineers.
No,
The-
McCormick Taylor's been involved from the beginning. We've been the design.
Okay. So it wasn't ready to go when I talked with Jack Stewart in like 2017, 2018, and he was working there and he was the guy that did all the bridge things.
The project was the schedule that we gave you at that time was our schedule at that time. The challenge we had, the county was trying to work a way to let the existing trusts, become part of the camp property. Solicitors looked at that for a long time, and at the end of the day, we couldn't do that. So the county now has to retain the ownership of the trust. So there was a lot of, agreements and discussions and solicitor involvement over the course of about 2.5 years to decide some of the right-of-way issues relative to this project. Not the engineering design. The engineering design was on hold for about, 2 years? Maybe 3 years? Yeah.
Where does the funding come from?
This project is retro reimbursement, and what that means is the county funds the project, and when the project's complete, the construction complete, PennDOT will pay 80%. So it's PennDOT funded post-construction.
Is that PennDOT 80% on our Chester County $5 fee, or is it independent of that?
It is not the $5.
It's independent. Correct. It is independent of the file.
Okay. Estimated cost? 13 homes. That's all I got.
Back on your plan view on the West Vincent side, what's the radius of your existing curve versus the proposed curve, and what's the posted speed limit?
So they match existing. We met what was out there today.
Existing and proposed match.
Relatively, they're a little slightly different, but not by much. And the posted speed limit will be 15 miles.
What's the curve? What's the radius?
Penny, do you remember? I want to say 150.
Norm, I'm not sure we can hear you back there. Yeah.
And that works for 15.
15 mile an hour.
My other question is from a hydraulic standpoint, I'm sure that was modeled, and I understand going to a 2-span versus a 1-span decreases your substructure, you can pass more flow, I get all that. My question is, what did the modeling existing wise look like as far as camp impact? And then when you, in your profile, you put the dip on the, I guess, Vincent side, the campsite.
It's on the West Vincent side, so it's actually backwards. So when you look at it, this is the West Vincent side.
Oh, you're blocking, you can't see what you're doing.
I'll use the mouse.
There you go.
So West Vincent side, East Vincent side.
Okay,
So-
so the profile that you constructed, the dip was on the West Vincent side?
Yeah.
Okay, where does it current, okay, I got you now. Okay, that's actually up now. For some reason, I thought the camp was.
Yeah, it's
I thought
kind of
West Vincent was
deceiving.
up.
It's not, it's actually very deceiving. There's actually a bowl on the West Vincent side.
Okay, so where does the flow currently overtop? If it doesn't overtop the existing bridge, where does it currently overtop?
It overtops on the Western.
On the West Vincent side?
And
Okay.
understand, that's what the hydraulic model is showing. We kind of know it doesn't happen. Like, just from history and being out there and knowing when it overtops, when it doesn't overtop, where it overtops. So,
Well, I guess my concern is certainly, if it ever does overtop, I'd be very concerned about the velocity and the R ring both upstream and downstream of that.
so there will be R8. So there are R7 choked with R3. Will be placed around all the abutments around the pier. to do protection, and then the bottoms of the slopes will be protected as well.
Can you explain what R8 is?
I'm sorry, so R7 is like, it's pretty big stone, average size is like 3 feet. Wide stone. And it'll be very, about 3 feet, so it'll be embedded 3 feet, and then you'll have the stone on top so that it protects the foundation of the bridge and the foundation. Of the bridge.
Okay, and you were talking about the abutments in pier. Okay, that's great. You've got a profile that shows essentially an emergency spillway. What about the upstream and the downstream side?
It'll go up the wings too. Like it'll go up the embankments and on the wings and.
Okay, so where is it going to go on the downstream side, the low point of the profile of the roadway? What does that look like then?
So the rock will actually wrap around the wings, and it'll come up here and wrap around the wings. And
Okay.
then it'll come up here and then wrap around back in here. And then the same thing for here.
And then,
So it'll all be protected.
okay, and then when you modeled your post-development hydraulic flow, what was the depth at that low point? Is there going to be any concerns with emergency access? Because if you've got a situation where you've got a flood that's on the top of the road, there very likely could be a reason that the fire company or emergency personnel might need to use that.
So I do know the 10-year flow. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I honestly do not. I'd have to look at the model, but I do know we did specifically look at that, and the depth that was on there, we felt was passable by even a car.
It was 6 inches.
It was 6 inches.
For a 10-year flow.
Was it? That was 100. No, that was 100.
Okay, you said
Yeah, sorry.
10 additional,
Sorry,
so
yeah.
10 would be concerned.
I know it's over. I know there's like the littlest amount on the 10-year. So,
And right
but I
now,
don't know off the top of my
you
head.
have
so I'm sorry.
no ability for emergency service vehicles to use the 6-ton bridge safely.
No, understood. No doubt that it's an improvement, but if we're designing it at code, we design it so that it can work.
Yeah.
So,
And our design firm is the 10-year.
right, okay, but it was checked, obviously, for hydraulics. and checked for-
And those who don't know, this is Norm Ulrich from LTL. He's our township engineer.
Very educated.
Yeah,
residents.
we do have some very, very intelligent residents anyway, but that is true. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Stay real quick, Eric Quinn, I'm with Chester County. One of the things that we're going to be looking for from the township is when it comes to right of way. There are multiple items that need to happen, including township owned right of way on the West Vincent side that needs to be swapped out or purchased through fee. And there's just going to be a lot of back and forth that needs some help with from the township. When we get to that point.
Yeah,
How
if you look at where the existing road goes through the parking area, yeah, that's gonna be then part of the camp property. But at the same time, the camp is giving the township and the county the area, new right of way to build the new roadway and the new bridge, but more so on East Vincent. But then also in West Vincent, we are off of our original roadway. So what Eric's trying to say is we are gonna come back to the township, both townships, and show you the right of way acquisitions. At the end of the day, it's public right of way, but the roadway is owned and maintained by the townships and the bridge is owned and maintained by the county. I think that's important. And then also, I think we want to leave, correct me if I'm wrong here, we want to leave here today with, the board's concurrence for us to continue to go forward. And we've been trying to be as communicative as possible along the process, and we would like to hear the board's concurrence that, in favor of the process.
I'm in favor.
Yeah, I believe we already sent a letter in, did we not?
Another thing, if I could, I think Jim had sent me an email asking me what I thought about right away. I got kind of a stick drawing with some shaded areas. I'm gonna need before.
We'll get your plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna need actual set of plans.
No, that was
Otherwise,
like
I'd say
our-
the shading yellow looks wonderful. I love the color, but it can't really help you.
No, you're right.
And there'll be meets
That was
now.
here's our picture of what we're doing and taking it
Yeah.
an easy way to kind of see what was what and where it was going without all the numbers and the call outs and areas.
I mean, I definitely, hear what Julia and Barry are saying about, the size and definitely, I mean, I was wowed by the cost the first time I heard it. It sounds like it went up a little. So, but I'm not an engineer. I can't tell you how to change it. So unless we can come up with a better plan, it sounds like this is it.
One thing to keep in mind, if we're going to replace the existing truss, and if it weren't historic, we'd replace it, we would still have to build a temporary structure to access the West Vincent residents. So unfortunately, we're building two bridges, no matter how we do this
Right.
project.
You're just making
which
it
makes
stay.
It's expensive. In this case, we're rehabilitating the existing, and we're gonna stage it such that we build the new, as long as the old one can hold out. Build the new, switch the traffic over, rehabilitate the old.
And meanwhile, how often are they checking to see how the
Every 6
condition?
months.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that
And
is,
I
that is
will say based-
deteriorating.
sorry, I will say based on PennDOT standards, this is the smallest bridge.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tiff. PennDOT required to get the retro reimbursement, the 80% PennDOT funding, we have to build it per PennDOT standards. So we're not, and they would possibly allow a one-lane bridge because of the low ADP, the average daily traffic. However, because of the site distance in the curve, it's not safe. They would have probably rejected it for that reason.
Good, okay.
Oh,
On the Camp Cernak side, the end of the bridge, I mean, just looking at it from here, it looks like there's a kink in the alignment. Did you have some kind of challenge there?
So it's the way the bridge is actually sent. We're like
Is that-
kind of filling that out now. What happens is the bridge comes off at the tangent, so the road actually curves, but the wing and
That's why you.
and the barrier continues because you don't really curve that. So that's why it looks like that, unfortunately, but the road itself does curve. It's just, it looks,
and
unfortunately. it looks
Norm,
kinky, but
is there other information that they can get to you? And if you have, is there other information they could get to you if you have further
Yeah.
questions? Okay, yeah, because I think you're getting above what everyone here can handle. And we do need to keep moving on. And I would also ask if you have any slides that we can put on our presentation, if you can give them to the township, that'd be appreciated. But thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Sergeant Russell has been very patient, waiting here to come give us a police report. Don't worry about it. I don't think it's bothering anyone. You're gonna plug it right from there, right? Christina, can you plug it from there? Watch your head. You're right under it.
Yeah, when you stand.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And without further ado, we will introduce Sergeant Russell. Please report.
This is the West Vincent Township Police Department monthly report for January 2025. There was no training in January. Summary totals: number of calls for service 168, number of crimes investigated 4, number of arrests 2, both for simple assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. Number of traffic stops 5, and number of accidents investigated 13.
Thank you very much.
Sarge, is there any particular area where these simple assaults, they happen? Like, can you
These are
say?
still
You
open
can't say,
cases.
but-
I can't say too much about it.
Okay.
We're still going through the system.
Thank
I don't know
you.
if we had a problem area in the township that we.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I can't say a lot though.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much. And of course, if anyone has questions, they can direct them directly to the police department. Do we have someone here from the fire company? Oh, you are here. Great. Thank you. And this is going to be a regular
Gonna try to be here every month.
thing that we're going to have.
right.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The Lowish Corner Fire Company report for January.
What's your name, please?
It's Jeff Kimes. I'm the deputy fire chief.
Jeff Times.
Kimes. So for the month of January, we had a total of 45 calls. Our time in service was 26 hours and 11 minutes, and our total man hours were 115 hours and 11 minutes. Specific to West Vincent Township, we had 19 fire incidents. We had 1 automobile accident, 6 automatic alarms, 1 fire police request, and 11 medical incidents. We had 14 incidents in Upper Euclid Township. We had 10 incidents in East Nat Mill Township, and we had 2 calls for assist for mutual aid. Our average responders per call for the month of January were 7 volunteers, and our average responders for medical incidents were 2.
So, Jeff, you count the medical assists along with fire?
Yes, so the fire company has a quick response service that responds to medical incidents that gets there to provide medical care before the ambulance arrives.
Okay.
They have the capability to do everything but transport the patient.
And how is that done?
So we have a vehicle. We also have people that respond privately on vehicles with medical equipment. So they will respond from their homes directly to the incident. They stabilize the patient, provide whatever care that's needed, and the ambulance gets there, and then the ambulance actually does the transportation to the hospital.
And where's the ambulance coming from?
It depends. Normally, it could be Euclid ambulance is mostly the primary, but it also could be Phoenixville. Sometimes it could be Elverson. Sometimes as far away as Pottstown.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention too that we had a request last month from Barry to bring back the Public Works report, which we are doing that, and it was posted. We're not going to ask Mike to come out here this late and talk about it, but during the matters report, we will bring up any of the bigger issues, but it is being posted. You're welcome. Thank you for the suggestion, and we will move on to the treasurer's report.
In terms of the summary of all funds as of the end of January, general fund was $1,027,580.72. I'm going to skip over a lot of these just because they are what they are. There were very few transactions in the other accounts during the month of January. The total of unrestricted township funds is $5,973,633.89. In terms of restricted township funds, the ARPA fund was $60,683.79. Open space, $4,851,827.74. Liquid fuels, $397,981.60. Total, $5,310,493.13. Non-township funds, which are escrow funds and sewer funds, they total $838,291.83 for a grand total of $12,122,418.85. I'll make a couple of notes. One is that, yes, the general fund balance has increased substantially, as you can see from last year. The end of January last year, the general fund balance was under $300,000. And I know there's a couple of questions that I think came from John, and I'll try and answer them now. One is, yes, the capital road fund increased by $177,000 plus interest, and the reason being they received a refund check from an asphalt supplier that was deposited into that account. In terms of the ARPA fund, the balance of the ARPA fund was spent in January, and it was to purchase a police vehicle, not a park vehicle, a police vehicle. And if there's a mistake there, it'll be corrected. We purchased a pickup truck for the police department with the balance of the ARPA funds. Other than that, that's really about it for the treasurer's report.
Do we have any questions?
Well, as I feel what the income or loss for the month is fairly important. The loss for January was in the general fund was $317,000. Chris mentioned that there's a slow income at the beginning of the year.
Very slow income. January is a very slow income month, and there was very little income during the month of January. That has turned around in February. We received close to $300,000 in earned income taxes during the month of February so far.
Okay, and then one of the things I mentioned is on the sheet, there's a lot missing from the P&L that gets posted online.
That's correct. And what I said in my comments was I have not posted those accounts in which the only transaction was interest.
Yeah, but the $184,000 in capital road fund is
I-
not interest.
I explained that.
I know.
That was the check for $177,000 plus interest.
Okay,
And so it accounts for $184,000.
okay. Then another comment I generally have is that these show, I guess, a bank balance. And where it says, and the ARPA funds are $60,000, there's not.
No.
They've written checks for 50,000.
Correct.
And it does say in the parks, not police.
Well,
Maybe
that
that's
will be
an error.
corrected. It was per a police vehicle.
That has to be corrected. Let me see if I have any other comments. Excuse me. I know the last comment I have is when I tried to put your budget into the spreadsheet that I did. And it says there is $78,000 or something surplus for the year, but the book balance only goes up by 9,000. Is that inconsistent? I think in the other funds.
John, if you'll send me what you're talking about, I'll take a look at it. I mean, I'm using QuickBooks to do the math for me, and I've been through the calculations in QuickBooks for each account. So in my mind, that should be correct. If you'll send me what you think,
Okay,
how it's different, I'll take a look at it.
I can do that.
But I really can't comment on it now because I don't know what you entered.
I entered what was on the sheets that were
Well,
online. That's all. That's all I had. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's move on to the summary bills list.
The bills list, for all of the bills for this, and they're coming out of various accounts, is $197,033.23.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure list for all township funds in the amount of $197,033.23.
And I will second that. Are there any questions on the bills list? No, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And we have no old business. We're going to move on to new business.
Manager's report.
Oh goodness, sorry. I'm really rushing it.
Okay, I'll try and make this as short as I can. The road crew in particular has asked me to please emphasize there are down wires in the roads. We have been in contact with Pico on multiple occasions trying to get things corrected. Please do not walk over, drive over these lines. Even if they don't look like they're energized, they could be energized, particularly if someone has misinstalled a generator, which might be backfeeding into the lines. It's enough to create fire. It's enough to kill you. Please do not drive over the wires. The other issue is if you drive over the wires and damage the wires, it's going to make restoration more difficult and it's going to take more time. Instead of doing a simple splice, it may be multiple splices and they may have to replace lengths of wire. Please don't do that. I also wanted to make a statement about you may be seeing some activity on a property which may be of interest to people in the township, that being the Bennett property, which is on South Chester Springs Road. We received a one call notice for that property, which indicated that they are doing and are scheduled to do small excavations on their property. And the only thing else I'm saying that it's at least what we received from one call indicates that the work is being done for Toll Brothers. If you remember, that property was under agreement with McKee. All I know is that the party who's doing the work now is being done for Toll Brothers. That's really all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Jim? Okay, we'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the conditional use application from Pot House Kimberton, 986 Pottstown Pike, parcel 25-6-70, and set a date for conditional use.
Hearing, right?
Yes, hearing. I don't know if we know what that date is, do we?
I think it has to be within 45 days.
Oh, set the date for this
Yep,
hearing.
March
March
17th.
60.
Got it. It's over here. Pretty busy day.
Set the date for the hearing is March 7th, 2025.
And then we also, I don't know if we need to talk much about this, the authorizing the pipelining under Kimbert Ray. Is Norm involved with that, or can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that?
Well, these are old pipes. These are drainage pipes. Some are as far underground as 32 feet. They need to be relined as opposed to excavated and replaced. This is the cheapest, most cost-effective way of doing it. And there's a series of pipes that we'd like to do and get done by the contractor. This is under the state contract, so it doesn't go out to bid.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for that.
A second.
Does anyone have questions? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we're also authorizing the release of the escrow for McCone at 2043 Remington.
I'd like to make a motion to release the escrow for McCohen at 2043 Remington.
Second that. Any questions? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And then now we have a very exciting one here. Jim's just smiling from ear to ear. Would you like to make that motion? Would you like me to?
No.
Yeah.
It's not correct on my.
No, I'll go ahead. We'd like to make a motion. We just found out a lot of the particulars that didn't get posted yet, so we will be posting this. We were making a motion to approve resolution 8-2025, appointing township manager Tommy Ryan with compensation of $160,000 starting March 17th, 2025, with a bond of $3 million.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we'd also like to make a motion to approve the township manager employment agreement for Tommy Ryan, starting on March 17th, 2025.
Second the motion.
Any questions?
You posted?
The resolution, yes.
No, the employment agreement.
I don't know if we can do the whole agreement. I'm not sure.
I think.
Yeah,
I
if
think
we
you
can,
do
then
the
we,
whole-
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we will. Yeah, I know we couldn't do anything till tonight because he was giving notice on Friday and we didn't get everything buttoned up till just recently. So.
Can
You have a
just tell
question?
us more about him? Is that
Um,
the new township manager?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I did.
Oh, that was all you wanted to
The
know, if it was
township
the new
manager.
township manager?
The new
Yes,
township
Tommy Ryan. I can tell you that he's coming from, I'm gonna say this wrong, East Cocalico Township. Thank you. That's where he is currently, and he's worked as a township manager in several different municipalities. He spent, I think, more like 7 years in Warminster, Montgomery County, and then another 5 years in West Bradford and Chester County. He's a pretty well-known quantity. He's been around the block, and we expect him to save us a lot of money in many different ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he teaches at PSATs,
Mhm.
which is Pennsylvania State Agency.
Yeah, and Montco too. No, not Montco. What's the other? There's a university. Millersville? I think it's Millersville that he also also teaches management.
So he teaches government, and, you know, how to operate your township and such like that.
And the thing that I think I was most impressed by him, there were quite a few things, he was very impressive, is he's all about transparency and communication. And he writes the newsletters, he makes sure that they get out on a regular basis. He has a very I think John will be very excited by his budgets and the way he handles the finances and the way he explains them. So he's very interested in making sure that we have a plan for our roads, open space, and he's interested in sustainability as well. So he just seemed to hit all the buttons for us, and we're very excited, and we think he's going to do a fantastic job for us. So we're very excited.
How long was he at Cocalico?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, he lives back this way and he wants to move closer to home.
And
They
then-
love him there and they would love to keep him, but
And then 160 was the salary? How's that on
Yes.
the benchmark for that position? Is that on the higher or lower?
well, you know, from this process, we found that we were really, really underselling that as far as trying to get a good manager.
Manager two previous ago was receiving 160.
Yeah, he was. And this manager also, you know, I don't want to get into it. I think we want to let him get here and get his feet wet and talk to the public on his own about how he's going to change some things and what he's going to do. But there are certain functions he's going to be taking over that will save us considerable money.
Are you able to share those functions or you want to wait a week?
No, I think we want to wait till he's here and he gets a chance to meet everybody and he can talk to you himself about, you know, his plans for how he's going to run this administration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you be hiring a full-time treasurer at that?
These are all decisions that he is going to make and is very excited to make. So he is very adept at coming in and, you know, starting from scratch, hiring all new people where he needs to and handling things on his own. So he's going to solve all those problems that we haven't yet. And we talked about all of this, all the things that were troublesome for us, and he's really on board, and he's a known quantity, and we've gotten a lot of good personal recommendations that, you know, he's the real deal. So very excited. What else? No, do we have any public comment? Non-agenda items?
I just had this thought that maybe, the issue we had about posting draft minutes, maybe you could meet part way. Is there a way that Christina could post the minutes after you approve them during the meeting and then give people a chance to look at them online? If they have questions, they could come up at the end. So that's impossible.
Oh, well, maybe we could print them out and assuming that they were approved, then you can take them on your way out. What about that?
Well, what I want to get to,
They're approved?
what I'd like is for people here on the night you approve them that had their own comments, if they thought that they had an issue, that they could, in the same meeting, at least bring it up, even if it not, even at the end of the meeting. If that's the way to do it, that would be fine with me. I think maybe what Jamie had said, maybe you could, as long as you can not create any sunshine violations, you could work out your comments between yourselves so that you don't have, you know, if you have an issue with what's in the minutes, maybe you could figure out if you all agree, and then there'd be less chance that they would have to be changed. You could print them out. They'd be, you know, if you all agreed on them, there'd be almost no chance that what the draft was wouldn't be approved. But you could print them out and hand them out.
Well, we don't approve them until we get here. And then that's I mean, but I hear what
But-
you're saying, as long as we didn't
There's
all say,
no-
oh my God, that is totally not what happened at that meeting.
Yeah,
Then
there's no
in
reason
that
you
case, they
can't,
wouldn't go out. Otherwise, they could be sitting there.
but there's no
Work on
reason you
that.
can't look at them before the meeting. Obviously, that's the whole point of draft minutes, right?
We look at them before the meeting.
Yes. Is there any way you could at least transmit through the manager?
Yeah.
Your comments, and if there are no issues, then the draft that you approve at the meeting would be the same. You know, there'd be no changes to the draft.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think we can talk about, what's possible. I personally would like you to have the minutes because I think it's nice for people who weren't at the last meeting that, something might have happened there that they would like to follow up on. I think it is nice
I agree.
to have the information.
I agree, and
at
I
the
also
last meeting.
understand the
But I understand the
hesitancy on the
issues.
legal side, but maybe there's a way we could do this where they could be approved, and then, because now you're, if you do have a comment on the approved minutes, you have to wait another month and come to the next meeting, bring it up at the end of the next meeting.
Okay, we can take that under advisement. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment on the later side. When I go to the West Vincent site, you get this message about don't put any snow back on the road. But what happens, I clean my driveway and then they come and take all the road snow and put it in my driveway. So then I can't get out. So I know the world's not fair and I'll just plow it again. But that's what's happening.
Welcome.
Thank you, John.
On the draft minutes for several years, they were posted. You used to be able to get them right back here and you could look at them before they were voted in. And then later on, they were published on the website so that people could look at them. It was never an issue. And in fact, going back to Jim's earlier days, I'll never forget there was a time where they had in the minutes a claim that somebody had made a statement that a piece of equipment had been stolen. And the video that I happen to have showed that he never said stolen. He said it was missing and he thought he had located it. And that was pointed out and the supervisors still agreed that he said stolen. So you can still vote in the wrong minutes if you want. Doesn't make any difference. If you want to vote in a lie, you can certainly do it, even though the video says otherwise. I don't think there's any harm in draft minutes. It's been done before and it can be done again. That's all I got. Thanks.
Hello there, Julia Brandel. Just want to make a comment on the little Chester Springs Road Bennett property thing. So it sounds like Toll Brothers has a contract with a 2-year due diligence period, ending sometime in 2027. And I want to make sure they're saying they want to build 50 homes, and I want to make sure that the board has the same position as they did with Mickey, that they are not open to granting relief for higher density. The last time around, that's what they said. Who was our solicitor at that time?
Mark.
Was it Mark? Mark said it and McKee gave up. So just want to remind everybody that that's what happened the last time around and McKee gave up. I don't think that we're ever going to conserve that property. Something's going to be built there, but sticking to your guns at 50 homes, which is approximately what they can do, I think is important to do.
Thank you.
Can't stop it, but you can control it.
So if everything goes according to plan, would the new township manager be here for the next meeting?
That's his first day, so it's up to him if he wants to jump into I'm sure he would want to come and meet everyone, but I don't, I'm sure we'll still also have Jim
Well,
as well on that day since he'll.
the reason I
be
ask
here all
is
month.
just to, if this is Jim's last meeting, just like to say thank you for stepping in and bearing the brunt of people like me for as long as you did. We were really lucky to have that you were available and agreed to be here.
Yes,
for this.
thank you. I agree.
Thank you.
That that's the bittersweet part because we are going to miss Jim. Jim did do a lot.
Absolutely. Yep. Seeing no one else, I make
Yeah.
a motion to adjourn.
I would agree. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. No, I didn't take that.